Hey everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this evening update on what is happening across the North Atlantic. We've got Lee, which has now intensified a bit more, becoming a major hurricane yet again. And we're going to be taking a look at Margot, which is starting to get itself together out there and is intensifying, expected to become a hurricane tomorrow. Additionally, we've got two disturbances, one of which might be our next big concern as we head into next week. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so and tap the bell so that you never miss an important video. So as we look at the 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook as of the latest update, we've got Hurricane Lee. There we can see it well to the north of the Leeward Islands, and we've also got Margot out there, which is not a bother for anyone right now. And then there are two disturbances, one of which is designated as an invest, and we will be talking about these in a moment. But let's take a look at what is going on across the Caribbean surrounding areas and look at our active tropical cyclones first. So looking at the Caribbean region right now, a couple of thunderstorms popping up this afternoon across sections of the Greater Antilles, also going over into some parts of Central America. And there's that area of convection that is dissipating in the southwestern Caribbean Sea, but as we head further to the east, we can see that there isn't much happening. All of the activity with Lee, all of those heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, strong winds, that is offshore right now. The most that these northern islands are getting, maybe some intermittent showers from all that moisture feeding into the hurricane, and those cirrus clouds as well, those feathery clouds high up into the atmosphere. So that's the most right now, but the worst of Lee is remaining offshore. But the main concern as well is with the surf that it is generating, so those very rough seas out there as a result of the hurricane. So that is a concern for the Western Atlantic, not only the northeastern islands of the Caribbean. And then as we head into the vicinity of the Bahamas, a couple of thunderstorms popping up across some areas as well, especially near Andros Island, but that is kind of dissipating right now. Also near the Turks and Caicos Islands and some spots in Florida, but nothing much. And then heading down into parts of northern South America and the South Caribbean, there we can see a lot of activity thanks to that daytime heating over in parts of Colombia and Venezuela, and even over in the most westerly part of Guyana. But for most of the country and other parts of the Guyanas, there isn't much happening this evening. Now we want to go ahead and talk about Lee. There we have the major hurricane, which is trying to get its eye out there. So it was looking really awful yesterday as it battled that wind shear, which had disrupted its structure, but now it is recuperating, it is rejuvenating and strengthening out there. So we've got it back up to major hurricane status. So it had weakened earlier today with maximum winds of 105 miles per hour at one point. So it definitely took a hit from that shear, but now we can see that it is making a comeback. And as we take a closer look at it, there we can see that eye wall is really trying to establish itself, and there we can see that eye trying to pop back out, which is it is likely to do so. As what many models had expected, the shear would decrease, which would allow for it to get itself back together and strengthen even more. And the National Hurricane Center is still anticipating peak winds of 140 miles per hour from the hurricane. Here we are looking at the cone forecast, and we can see that it is expected to remain a major hurricane through to the middle of the week, but then it should start to slowly weaken as it makes that turn up to the north and eventually pass to the west of Bermuda. So the worst of it will remain offshore, but if it is close enough to the point where tropical storm conditions could be experienced, a tropical storm watch or warning could eventually be in place for the island as we're going to be heading into the latter part of the week. But as of right now, it is sustaining peak winds of 120 miles per hour, being sustained, higher gusts, and it is moving to the west-northwest at 8 miles per hour. So it's not going to be moving much over the course of the next few days, but again, once it makes that turn, it will be accelerating up to the north quite quickly. And now we want to go ahead and talk about Margot. We're looking at it, and Margot is looking a lot better compared to a couple days ago when it was battling some of that shear as well. So it has strengthened, it is nearing hurricane status, and as we look at the cone forecast here, we can see maximum sustained winds up to 65 miles per hour, and it is moving to the north at 9 miles per hour. So it should become a hurricane by tomorrow. Not expected to be anything too strong out there, but eventually as it gains latitude, it will reach cooler waters, which will induce weakening. So that is what is going on. That is what is expected with Margot. And now we want to go ahead and talk about our other systems out there. So we've got Invest 97L. I'm not anticipating this to become anything much out there. So the formation chance is at a low 20% through both the next 7 days and 48 hours. It is very close to the Cabo Verde Islands right now, but it is not going to be in a very conducive environment to allow for much development. However, the concern is the tropical wave, which is off the coast of Africa. So we can see that the formation chance is now at 40% for this one to develop, and it should be moving on that general westward track and eventually start moving to the west-northwest. And some models want to take the system a bit closer to the Caribbean than others. Some even suggest that in the long term this could be a problem for North America. Who knows? But this is very far out. I will say that right now it's very far out. There's a lot of uncertainty down the road as it relates to the potential track, but in terms of intensity, we've got pretty good agreement that this could become our next hurricane, potentially major hurricane out there. And then the next name to be used is NIGEL. So we've got this new system to watch, guys, and it should soon eventually will be designated as an Invest. The next number is 98, so this will become Invest 98L, simply meaning that it is an area that will be closely watched for development. So the formation chance should gradually increase, and it should also appear better on satellite. So let's look at the satellite imagery here. There we've got 97L, not looking like much, just that cluster of showers and thunderstorms. And then our next tropical wave also not looking like much right now, but imminent formation is not anticipated. So let's see how it holds out for the next couple of days. And so let's take a look at the latest ensemble data coming from the GFS and Euro models, and we're beginning with Euro. And here we can see that we've got a decent amount of members expecting development for sure. So this is likely to develop into our next named storm. And I'm noticing that some of these members want to take this a bit closer to the Caribbean compared to previous updates. And then we see that next little cluster of members there. And this is the kind of activity we're going to continue seeing for the next several weeks, because we are in that time of the season right now. But then as we head to mid to late October, potentially going to November, there should be slowed activity as the season inevitably comes to a close, whenever it does. But again, there are record temperatures out there, so that could actually help to prolong the hurricane season. But that's not the only factor. There's also the wind shear. If there's an increase in shear across the basin, that is going to disrupt any disturbance trying to develop, and eventually we won't see anything much happening out there. So let's see what eventually happens, but let's focus on the now. So going on to the GFS ensemble members, we can see that they're kind of all over the place. We've got a couple of these ensemble tracks wanting to take this into the Caribbean, near the Caribbean, out to sea. So they're kind of all over the place, which indicates that, hey, we've got a lot of watching to do. But we can see that the greatest number of these tracks want to keep the system out to sea, and that seems like a pretty good probability right now. However, as I mentioned, there is a little bit of a westward shift, so we have to keep watching the system as we head through this week. We should see some development, maybe a tropical storm forming before the week comes to a close, and eventually a hurricane coming from this. But I will be keeping you guys posted as time goes by, and that is pretty much it for this update. And I hope you found it to be quite informative. But if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond to you once I get the chance to do so. And as always, remember to be weatherwise.